Hi there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hi there, and welcome to Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm joined today by the inimitable Craig Goldblatt, who has been a member for several months now at Collaboration Global. And I'm delighted to have him here because we have just been talking and having a fascinating conversation, and I just get to carry on, and you guys get to join in and listen to it as well. So welcome, Craig. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Jill.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, Craig, let's start at the beginning. I met you through, I believe, Gina Gardner, one of our members, and I was immediately invited to one of your events, which, how long ago was that now? A few months ago.
September. The 21st.
Oh, that's a good date for me, 21st of September. And it was a wonderful Living on Purpose day that we had. I wouldn't call it a workshop as such. I suppose some people might label it as that, but it was an experience. It was a place to explore. It was a place to play and find things and try stuff out. Mm-hmm. So where did that come from? How did you get to the point of going, I'm going to do a whole day and we're going to talk about our purpose and we're going to be living it and experiencing it and breathing it? And where did you find that beginning?
Well, what's coming to me is it may be prevalent for me to give a very brief potted history into that, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'm 49 years of age. I was born in South Africa in 1973. I emigrated in 77. I did some business diplomas. I went on the road as a foot soldier in my 20s, selling capital equipment to industry and shops and homes. And then I had a job with an international logistics firm. And so my 20s was filled with sales development. And then I got to 29, wanted my own business. I knew at that time that the only real gift that I had in business was in my communication. I wasn't a great strategist or brilliant at tactical implementation, but I knew that I was great in inspiring people. And so when I got to 29, I had no idea that professional speaking existed. But I went and started following people like Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, Zig Ziglar, Deepak Chopra, Anthony Robbins, all these people around. And I was sitting in conference halls watching a lot of amazing orators deliver their craft. And I was very fortunate. I got on the European circuit. And in my early 30s, the answer to your question, Jill, is in the early 30s of my life, when I was like 30, 31, 32, I found emotional needs psychology and NLP and neuroscience, and I became a voracious reader. And I really started learning about our internal world and our sense of purpose. And so then I was very fortunate when I was 35 to go and study NLP in India. And I was invited to go and spend a little bit of time with a remote community in the heart of the Ecuadorian part of the Amazon forest. Which is an Achuar community that's shamanic in their practice, and they're a dream nation. And it was there in the Amazon that I really started exploring what's my intention, what's my reason for living, my purpose, who am I, how can I stand on the shoulders of my parents and really understand, what they've created in their lives, and how can I continue that legacy. So that's where living on purpose really came from. Is that background.
Wow, that was a potted history. Fantastic. Well, I remember when you came back last year from one of your last trip to the Amazon, and you said to me emphatically, oh my God, Jill, you'd love it. It's incredible. It'll blow your mind. And I'm like, I don't think so. But you are so enthusiastic about it. Now, it's not an easy trip, is it? Give us a little window of what that feels like to be in that environment.
I really appreciate that. So many years ago, I went to a homeopath, and I haven't practiced homeopathy and I don't really understand it, but I believe in alternative medicine for sure. And this lady opened a book at the end of my first session, and at the time I was quite cynical actually, and she said, "This is about you, read this page." And at the top it said passionate adventurer, and I've never forgotten that. And that, you know, when you read these things and you go, that's me, that's me, that's me, and then you look at the next page and it's not you, and I'm like, how did you know that? And so I've always been interested in these remote, extreme environments. I've loved climbing Kilimanjaro, been very lucky to do that, and spend time in West Africa and India. And I love to travel and explore our world. And so I'm always looking for very, very remote environments and people who live differently, because I think it's in my genes and in my makeup and my personality, my identity, to disrupt and push and look at things very differently, try my best to live an extreme life, an extraordinary life. And so the Amazon is where I'm most comfortable. It's very intense, it's warm or hot. It's, besides certain parts of Africa, it's really the most biodiverse place I've ever experienced. And what I love about it is, I don't think, I've learned now for me that we don't step into nature or look at nature. We are nature. We're just cells. And the Amazon is the most natural place that I've ever been to on the planet. It is nature. It is our home. So rainforests, like oceans, are our home. It's where we derived from. It's where we came from. For me, even though I really enjoy going into a city for a night out, or I'm privileged to live in the countryside, is that naturally, when I look at our cellular makeup, we are part of the Amazon. Like Deepak Chopra said all those years ago, we're actually sharing organs. So our cells, when we started having this conversation, for me, Jill, I had some cells in my thumb that aren't there anymore. And and then I've got more cells. And so this whole world is just a big, when we're alive and dynamic, we're a big ball of energy. And so the Amazon is very much part of that. From a physical, that's spiritual for me. From a physical, even more of a physical perspective, is it's got beautiful plant life, a beautiful river, dolphins and amazing birds, and the wildlife is extraordinary. As Attenborough said, it doesn't quite put on a show like Africa does from an animal perspective, but it's stunningly beautiful. And I think that people give you time. It's like in the Amazon, time stands still. You wake up in the morning and you think it's 3 PM and it's only 10 in the morning, because everything's so still. And so you can just be for days, and it allows you to have this silent meditative way of thinking or being that allows thoughts occasionally to slow down and just come to you, rather than this overstimulation. So that's why I love the Amazon.
That is a really interesting point, isn't it? It's very, very rare that you do get that space for, as you say, the ideas to come, rather than the noise that we allow. I mean, social media's made it 10 times worse. The internet's made it 100 times worse.
Yes.
And I know one thing I love when I do go away, take my watch off.
Yes.
I eat when I'm hungry. I sleep when I'm tired. I wake up, and it just,
that's it.
You totally,
exactly it. Yeah.
And
absolutely. And then we can get, so I haven't studied this intimately in how the sun and the moon work, and I don't understand it enough. But what I understand to be true you know, it's fascinating that animals seem to live with a natural state and a natural clock, and we're animals, but we set an alarm clock. So in the Amazon, it gives us an opportunity to rebalance ourselves.
Well, we like to measure things, don't we?
Measure things, exactly that.
And the minute we were able to measure time, we started living by those rules.
There you
And we
go.
also,
there you go.
we love having rules, don't we?
There we go.
And
Exactly
labels.
that.
And,
exactly that.
People thinking I'm right, you're wrong, and all of those.
Exactly that.
And you take all of that away. And what are you left with? It's freedom, isn't it? Pure, unadulterated freedom.
That's exactly it.
I get it now. I get why you go. That is a beautiful space to inhabit. But you don't just go and have a jolly holiday.
No,
you take a group of people with you. So what made you do that?
So you know so much about community, and the idea and the principle behind it is this: we're going into a very remote community and very privileged to do so. And so we give, obviously, the community their space, but we go and stay in an environment within the Amazon on the Pastaza River, which has some individual communities, but are part of a much bigger community of indigenous people, and they're called the Achua. And I think there's 8,000 of them that live up and down the river in total. And in Ecuador, don't quote me on that figure, but I've been told that that's correct. And this community that we tend to stay with there's stunning people. There's about 25 families that live in the community. They have large families. So there's about 120 people. And going with a group gives us the opportunity to have a different connection, conversations, and bond with each other. And so, as an example, the reason why it's wonderful to take a group as opposed to go on our own, although going on your own, I'm sure is a wonderful experience too, a different experience. We have a tea ceremony. So they're a dream nation. So every morning, the community wake up at about 3-4 in the morning, and they sit around the fire and they share their dreams with each other, and they share their worries, and they share their successes and their celebrations and how they're feeling. And that's the way that they start their day as a community. And it's very visceral and very physical. And we've taken part in these tea ceremonies where we can sit as a group of 10 of us from England, or 15, 16 of us from England, and to share with the tribal elders. And what happens, of course, at 4 in the morning in the middle of the forest is that people start sharing their fears and their successes. And so it allows us to take this back as a group and to be able to really look at it in our own time together rather than alone. And as you know very well within Collaboration Global, that's the majesty of community, is to be able to share. And so the Amazon is an amazing place for us to be able to learn together and share our own ways in our own map, in our own Western map, and to integrate into a different world. So that's why it's so important to go there and bring people there. And the final thing is it magnifies, because if I go on my own, that would be powerful. The smallest group I've ever been with is 2 other people. But if I went on my own, it would be a very different journey, I'm sure, and just as rich in a different way.
I can imagine, because I think a shared experience is you're making memories, aren't you?
Yes.
And that will always connect those people to that moment in time.
Yes.
And it just sounds, to be able to experience moving away from the 21st century and not having all the entrapments that we have.
Yes.
That must feel really liberating.
It is very liberating. And also, as we know, we don't need to go to the Amazon, do we? We can go and go to the South Downs, and we can go to the Lake District, and we can go to the Peak District and the Pennines, and all of these amazing places. And if we go and stay in the middle of Cornwall in a tent, we can. Stonehenge has been doing it for a couple of years, I think. If we go to these places, we don't need to go to the Amazon. I suppose there's something about travel that adds a different dimension. And I'd love to just explore this. Is you just highlighted something for me, is spiritually, I believe that I've been alive 200,000 years, and that's not all woo-woo. What that means is, to me, is that my ancestors have worked incredibly hard to put me on this planet. They've worked very hard, wars, suffering, all sorts of things. Over the last 200,000 years that apparently our Homo sapiens, we've been on the planet, or longer than that, but definitely apparently, if you believe in Darwinism, 200,000 years. Those 200,000 years of people are inside my cells. And that seems a bit strange, but I carry the responsibility of everybody that's fought in wars, as an example, or suffered or brought up children or whatever, to be able to put me on this planet. And so the reason why the Amazon, as an example, is so important with a group is that if I smile at somebody, I'm sharing a piece of that 200,000 years. It seems a bit weird that I say it, but when we pay it forward, we're helping the next generation to carry on our human dignity. And so therefore, the more experiences that I can have in my body, and the more that I share that with other people, the more that our legacy, me and you and everybody else that believes in this stuff, the more that our energy gets transmitted to the kids, who then have more confidence to be able to create a compelling future for themselves. So I just think our experiences shape who we are, whether it's down the road chatting to a neighbor and having a cup of tea, or whether it's building a business or building a charity or going to the Amazon. Everything we do with the right intention supports the growth and the development of the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely. For good or bad. I mean, this is what I was saying earlier as well, that
100%.
Good and bad in the world, and people that have had bad experiences need to have the cathartic expression of themselves in order for other people, for them to leave it behind, because it's no longer them, because their cells are renewed and it doesn't even connect to them. But at the same time, by sharing it with other people, you're ensuring that somebody else isn't going to go down that same tragic route, and can be more aware of it and avoid it. It's interesting. I was writing an article the other day. Oh God, where does it come from? No, actually, I was talking, beg your pardon, I was saying it out loud at our Collaboration Global event last month, about my nan, who in 1939 had a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old and a 6-week-old baby, and her husband was killed at an accident at work. So she was now a widow. So she had to take on 3 jobs and a lodger to make ends meet, because she actually had a mortgage, because obviously women weren't allowed to have mortgages, but she'd inherited one. So she'd got one by default. So she had to pay the mortgage or lose her house. And then war broke out. And then she had to evacuate 2 of her children. And so for me, growing up, there was always this, don't moan because you've got it lucky. Right. Remember with your nan, she got with it and she pulled her sleeves up, and and it was like, big girls don't cry, you pull your big girl pants on, you get on with it, come on, this is our family and this is what we do. And there was this feeling of life is tough, get on with it, that kind of. And it did make me stronger. It did give me this core of like, well, if she could do that, I can do anything.
Yes.
And I'm trying to give that to my children as well. It's like, oh, if mum can write a book or 2 or 3 or flipping heck, or if mum can stand in front of 500 people on stage, there's no thing that I can't say no, because then my kids would go, oh no, my mum didn't do it, so I'm not going to do that. Right. That kind of feeling that you are definitely passing this, the good stuff, hopefully, down the generations. Yes. It's interesting, isn't it, how we can blame our heritage.
Yes.
So, oh, look, I've got ginger hair, I've got a terrible temper, I can't help myself.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, for those of you listening, sorry, I'm being incredulous here. I'm sort of raising my hands like, oh, for goodness, it's so ridiculous that you're allowing yourself to have this historical thing. Yeah, my dad was ginger, he had a temper, or whatever it is. You know, my dad was tall, therefore he did. My dad was short, therefore he did. Yes. Whatever it happens to be, we allow ourselves to limit ourselves by things that have gone in the past. But also we can look at the strength that we've had from especially generations before us that did go through the Blitz, that did go through world wars, that did suffer. Unbelievable for what we know today.
Yes.
Nobody is suffering in the same way that we, you know, those people that went through the Blitz, or those people that had to go on those air raids in the aeroplanes night after night after night, knowing your odds are like, you know, 10% of coming home.
Yes.
The real it's a legacy that we can embrace. And I think what you've just described, by going to the Amazon and understand and having done the research that you've done, you are now sharing with your children and the people that you teach and the people that you support that the future is our gift, and the future is what we can create it to be.
Absolutely. And you've highlighted a key point for me, Jill, in my life, is I'm learning that judgment is acid. And I know that we have to judge certain things, because otherwise we don't have a law system, we don't have a legal system, sorry, we don't have our structures. So I was using judgment in the looser sense. So if I was to elaborate on that, is my life, I'm responsible for my own life, and to judge other people for my misgivings is not good enough. In other words, if I was starting to blame my family or blame other people, or saying, well, I'm not in the football team when I was a kid because the coach doesn't like me and he doesn't know what he's talking about, I'm not going to get very far.
Yeah.
And so judgment of other people and of other systems in that way, I think, creates a real toxicity in our system. And, you know, so that's one element that you've just shared that to me is so spot on, is that judgment does kill us, I think, and stress is linked to judgment. And the worst type of judgment is judgment of self. Is I'm not good enough, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm this, I'm that. Is that we've been given this unbelievable majesty of a body. We've been given a home, as the Dalai Lama calls it, that is beyond complex, beyond miraculous. The complexity of being able to see, for us to open our eyes and see what we see, the complexity of that is, however much scientists are geniuses and look at the way in which we work internally and externally, nothing, we don't understand anything compared to our eyes. Or, I mean, we're just genius. We are all geniuses.
Absolutely.
And so to judge ourselves so harshly because somebody's number 10 in the world, not number 1 in the world. I mean, when you look at that, that lunacy of how we judge ourselves, I'm not good enough, I don't love who I am. We're all magnificent. And that creates a platform for us to be able to say, now I can explore and do. Lionel Messi's always an example I use, is that when he scores a goal, he's in flow, he's in beauty. When Pavarotti used to sing, he's in flow, he's in beauty. Because these people understand that their gift is internal and they can just share their craft. And when judgment gets out the way, it's amazing what a human being can demonstrate.
And also, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, for sure. But these people are beautiful examples, Messi and
yeah, they're quite unusual examples. I get that.
Look at them and go, oh, how lucky were they? They had that talent. They had that genius.
We all have different talent. Yeah,
but it takes years and years and years of them honing that genius. It was that spark, that passion, that they were following what they loved doing.
It does. It's true.
But so much work went into that, and most people haven't got they don't see how to create the capacity to follow a passion through like that. And that's why those people, Pavarotti stands out head and shoulders above everybody else, because he has honed his craft from a very early age and spent hours and hours and his whole lifetime dedicated to this talent that he had, so that we got the pleasure just by sitting there going, oh, I wish I could sing like that. Well, it doesn't happen by accident. We still have to.
You're right. That's true. And it actually, what you've shared with me there takes me to two places. One is that they're not bad examples or good examples. They're famous examples, if you like.
Yeah.
And what would be more powerful, actually, Jill, you know, you having said what you've just said, what would have been more powerful for me to share is that it's not examples like that that are most prevalent in our lives necessarily. We make them so. But what's so powerful, if we want to use something else, which is more powerful for most of us, is when you look at a child and you look at their childlike energy and the joy that they admit, providing they're a healthy kid playing in a playground and having dreams, and you see a little boy or a little girl playing with their toys and making big castles and all sorts of stuff and being a princess. You know, we have a natural genius of play and joy. And I think what's happened to me some of the time, and to others, even though I pride myself on my childlike energy, that through times like COVID, we've stopped dancing.
Oh, yeah.
And we've stopped expressing our unique talents and our characters and our personalities. And we've learned to try to be safe. And safety is, to me, is vitally important. And we have a survival instinct, don't we? That's in our makeup, that's hardwired, thank goodness, for us to be able to survive and look after ourselves and be successful as an individual and be successful as a global community. But safety, I think, has been given too much now. We're too safe.
I agree.
And we need to explore our sense of risk. And part of that comes from our courage. And so the more courageous that we are, the more we take a risk and the more that we live life. So I think there's a very valid psychology in this, which says, how much safety do I need? And do I have enough in order for me to go and push my boundaries and to be able to live a life of meaning and a life of purpose, whereby I'm willing to take chances and risks, and even to the point that if I die doing so, then I've lived a life worthwhile, which I believe is in all of us. You know, we don't materialize it, all of us, because we have fears. But there is an underlying soul, I feel, within us, that providing we hang around with the right people, read the right work, you know, stimulate our own sense of learning psychologically and spiritually, we are able to take bigger risks than we can ever dream of and create a compelling future for the kids around us. So I think we need to take some more risks.
I love that. Yeah. Take a risk.
Yeah.
I used to know somebody that was his close off on his emails.
Sorry, say that again.
Somebody he used, that was his sign off, and his, rather than best wishes or yours sincerely, it was like, take a risk.
Yeah. That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like Steve Jobs said, be foolish.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then when you surround yourself with little people, and I talk to them exactly the same way as I talk to an 80-year-old, whether they're 8 or 8 months, or whatever. Exactly. And you really can tune into their wonder, their sense of wonder and enjoyment and curiosity at this fabulous world that we live in. One of the things we say about Collaboration Global is that if you want to collaborate, some of the behaviors that you need is this sense of adventure, this ability to be curious, this sense of fun, and this generosity of spirit, so that you can kind of go, oh, why not? Let's try this and see where it takes us. And it's and that's when the magic happens, as you say. That's when it all starts to bubble under.
And you have that. You have that. You have so much of that. Yes.
When I was a kid, I used to drive my mum nuts, because whenever we go out somewhere, I'm like, what's around that corner? She's like, I don't know. Yes. What's around that corner? What's up those stairs? What's over there? And I just wanted to know what was next. And now if I go on a lovely country walk and my husband says, should we turn back now? Should we go back? I mean, can we just see what's
just go around?
And then I just want to see what's around the next corner and then I can go. It's a family joke now.
Yeah.
So what would you say? This is a really hard question, but hopefully you'll get me. What's your genius? What is Craig Goldblatt's inner core of genius that you go, this is my gift to the world?
It's my passion and my energy. There's three things. So my passion, my energy, and my child. I have an enormous child inside me, and I've always, my glass isn't half full, my glass is often overflowing, not always, because I feel I've, like all of us, I've suffered. I've experienced real loss. My mum passed away when I was 18, and I dealt with that. I didn't deal with that at all well in myself, and on the flip side of that, I dealt with it perfectly, but I couldn't cope with mum's death very well for years. And so there's been real adult times for me to deal with, like all of us. And saying that, I'm deeply passionate about life. And that's my gift to people. So I'd say my energy, my passion, and my child. And the gift that sits behind that or in front of that, my gift that propels my passion, is I'm a great communicator when I'm at my best. I'm not good necessarily with numbers. I'm not a great linguist. I'm not a good strategist with things. So my gift is my communication, and through that, I'm deeply passionate about life, which gives me a joyful existence. So that's my genius, is my passion.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And to be honest, anybody that didn't know you could just look at you for 2 minutes and go, energy. We could feel it coming through. Hopefully people are feeling that as they're listening to this now or watching this. You've definitely got that wonderful effervescent energy that's going on. And then when you get to know you a little bit longer, there is that childlike state in there as well, which takes me back to one of my favorite questions. And I've stolen this from Simon Sinek.
Yes.
And on his podcast, he asks his guests, what were you like as a child? So what was the 8-year-old Craig doing? What was his happiest? Think of a happiest time that you had when you were, say, 8 years of age. What was the thing that kept you amused, kept you happy? Or is there an occasion that you distinctly remember?
Yeah, it's definitely sport. I mean, I'm passionate about the world of sport. And when I was 8 years old, like so many other kids, I had a football at my feet, or I had a tennis racket in my hand. And I was given very, I was very lucky to have a BMX, and I spent forever on my BMX, building ramps and jumps, and I think I've got this Walter Mitty, unrealistic view of my childhood. I know that I had a fantastic childhood because I remember it, and I was so fortunate to have the childhood that the love that my parents gave me was extraordinary and is extraordinary. And so I had a wonderful childhood. And I know that there were difficulties, like every child experiences. But yeah, it was sport. And I also want to share something that, just if I can, just 2 minutes ago, that I thought of, is I'm doing a 28-day program at the moment on gratefulness. And it's a bit poetic, but during this podcast, I've got this in my hand, which is a little heart. And it helps me with my practice, because I'm going through Rhonda Byrne's magic program at the moment, which is 28 days long. And every day it helps me to be grateful for everything in my life. And the reason for it is we're creatures of conditioning. and like brushing our teeth, is that symbols mean a lot to us. And so for me, just to add this in, is what helps me to remember who I am at my best rather than at my worst, which is, a balance. I have lots of misgivings and lots of creation, is to be able to have a daily practice that reminds me to be a child.
Yeah. I love that. It's so easily forgotten, and we get too serious, don't we, as grown-ups?
Yes.
You've got this beautiful glass heart in your hand, and it's lovely to have that symbol. I know my husband carries around a little stone that he took from a course that he was on, a More to Life course, which is very along the lines of Landmark Forum, which I think you've
yes
in the past.
I know it.
And it's about, having it in your pocket at all times, so that, if times are tough, or if you're thinking about something, you get grounded with nature, with that moment in time of you getting closer and connected more to you. And I think that's a really powerful practice, not only to do something every day and make it conditioning, but the gratitude that, do you know what? So many things can be dispersed and dissolved by the power of that gratitude. Things that you thought were a problem or an issue or an upset, and then you just become grateful and grateful. And I'm going to share what I said to you at the very beginning when you said, "Hi, Jill, how are you?" before we even started this call. And I said, well, do you know what? I've just reviewed my week. And I was focusing all week on Tuesday. I had an event, and it's like, so many people didn't show up. Why didn't they show up? They said they were coming, they didn't turn up. And rather than focus on the people that did turn up and the incredible things that happened. And it's whooshing your mindset away from the negative into the positive. And I think, again, I tell a story that I've told before. I did an experiment on myself, because I believe I'm an optimist. I'm a very positive person. I'm proactive. I'm, really thinking. I'm very aware of my thoughts. And I thought, I'm going to walk from my house to the train station, which at the time was about a 4-minute walk. And I'm going to count how many negative thoughts I have. I'm just going to free flow and let it go. And I got to the station after 4 minutes, and there was 27 negative thoughts. And I'm like, hang on, but if that's me, what's a miserable negative person going to be doing in their life? That's going to be a continual thread going round and round and around. So how do you get out of it is you be grateful. It's like, wow, I'm lucky that I can walk to the station. I don't have to, all of the kind of things that you take for granted, and have a daily ritual. Is it a ritual? Is that the right word? Ritual sounds hard. I think a daily motivation around being grateful, it just fills your heart and soul. Why would you not do that? I think that's a brilliant 28 days. You'll have it sussed.
Well, yes, and when I went on this amazing neuroscience course with a lady called Tibse Vera from the Academy of Neuroscience in Europe, amazing lady. She, I was trying to study a little bit about our brains. And, this is generalizing hugely, so I'm not quoting Tibse on this. This is what I got from it. Part of what I got from it, I got a lot from the course, is that by the time we're 35 years of age, we're pretty conditioned creatures, and we have 60,000 thoughts a day. 90% of those, 90% of those are very similar to that of yesterday's. And so in order for us to change our map of the world, or our structure of the way in which we think and connect to our senses, is through intensity or trauma. And so I think the way to change negativity in our brain is to have a very intense experience, or hopefully not too many traumatic ones, but an intense experience. And so intensity is very important for change. And so when we've had enough of something, we change it. And so I think an intense thing while walking to the train station could be an intense rose that we see, a real opportunity to sing to ourselves, or imagine something. Or Einstein said imagination is more powerful than knowledge. So intense doesn't mean that we have to jump out of a plane in order to change our lives. It can help. We'll go to the Amazon. You know, to go to the Amazon, we have to have this intense experience, which is amazing and helps. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be intense thoughts. What if? To dream big. And then, because if we're having one negative thought, apparently, and all these numbers get thrown about, so please, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not saying this is fact.
Yeah.
That for every negative thought we have to have 10 positive thoughts to just equal it. And so we have to have intensity in our lives. Beautiful music, beautiful friends, beautiful book, to be able to stimulate that change. Can't keep things the same and expect it to change.
No, exactly. That's the route to insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting it to change. I don't know who said that. Probably several.
Climbing up a tree or something, Einstein or whatever. Yeah.
So, listen, how I'm just looking at the time. We could go on for another hour. I'm just trying to hone it into. We'll have to have part 2, right? We're going to have part 2, Craig. We'll do this. We'll have another section later on. What's going on in your life right now? What would you like to share with people that they might be able to get a bit more of Craig Goldblatt and find out more about you? What's happening?
Yes, so thank you. So we're very active on LinkedIn now, and we are running a number of webinars that we're enjoying. So we're running free webinars on LinkedIn around our sense of intention, our purpose, our identity, our beliefs and values, which we're loving, and people are coming on those, which is great, amazing. And so we're doing that every couple of weeks. So if you go to Craig Goldblatt on LinkedIn, that we're doing webinars. We're also running our Living on Purpose program, and the next one's on March the 21st, and we love to run those workshops. We're speaking at conferences, and we're taking opportunities to be able to be with people in intense environments such as the Amazon forest. So our next Amazon journey is on September the 21st, and which is, as we've talked about, an incredible journey of the soul. And so we're speaking and training and coaching a lot, and being on LinkedIn and going to the Amazon. So we're very blessed to be running Living on Purpose right now. And that's our main work. And on a social level, if you like, I'm really enjoying my tennis. No, I'm 50. I'm 50 this year, in a couple of months' time. And what that means apparently is when I turn 40, Jill, I go backwards. So it's my 30th birthday in April. So I'm 30 in April. And so what that means is in my tennis tournaments, I get to play with the over 50 guys now, which means I can be a little bit fitter, because I'm 49 playing with the guys that are 45. So it gives me an opportunity this year to go a bit further into my tennis tournaments, I trust. Just being as blessed as I can with the challenges that we have in the world, that always present learning opportunities for us. And I feel that everything's cyclical in the world, and my strong sense is that there's lots of work to be done always, and I guess there will be since the dawn of time and will be forever. But at the same time, I really feel a sense of optimism. I know there's economic difficulty right now, and that's not without its challenges. And at the same time, I really feel that 2023, 2024 is a real opportunity. It's a platform now for us to have learned from the last few years that have been super tough. And I really feel, just looking at, I know it's going to bounce around for the next 6 months or so, a lot of people say, but if you look at the stock market and the opportunities that are out there for people to really express themselves emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, financially, there's a lot to celebrate and a lot to look forward to. So I'm excited.
I think it's amazing. It sounds like 2023 is going to be very special for you. And I think if anybody wants to hook up with you via LinkedIn on your webinars, or in particular on that Living on Purpose day, it's not, I wouldn't call it a workshop. Having experienced it, it's just an experience that
Living on Purpose experience.
Yeah. Or an extravaganza?
Yeah,
I don't know. A
it's
workshop seems a bit mundane.
no, thank
What
you.
you
Yeah,
actually, so for me, being part of that whole day, you know, there were lots of things that I felt like I sat there going, I know my purpose, I'm fine, I'm okay, I know what my purpose is, but it's the living on purpose bit. It's the,
yes,
you get to explore what your purpose is, but also with the people around you, you kind of unpack so many things that you're like, huh, I haven't thought about that. I didn't, and it's not just about the thinking and the physical front part of your brain, it's the soul and the heart that comes with it as well, which was very special. So I wish you every luck with the extravaganzas and experiences. What I'm really excited for, though, is at the end of this month, you're going to be speaking at a Collaboration Global session. So if anybody would like to hear a 15-minute version of what you've just heard, a potted version maybe, do you know what you're going to be talking about on, Craig, or my two, is it purpose, presumably?
Yes, I'd love to talk to you more about that. My sense is that beliefs is a wonderful subject, because I think where we sometimes get stuck and where we can really change things is what we believe to be true about ourselves.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
And so I feel that that's a great subject to explore as well, is the power of what we believe to be true about ourselves and others. So it'd be great to have a chat about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody wants to come along to that, you can go to Eventbrite and search for Collaboration Global, or you can go to collaborationglobal.org and book directly from there. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being our guest today. Like I say, I really definitely want to have part two, because there is so much that we've just scratched the surface of to find out more about you and the extraordinary things that you want to do. But the fact that you say your genius is passion, energy, and being childlike, I think you've demonstrated that perfectly here today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being part.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you.